Hello and welcome to the latest Dabs.com podcast. Today I'm joined by Matt and we're going to be having a chat about the next generation of consoles, the Xbox 720 and the PlayStation 4. We were expecting at the end of 2013 for some announcements to be made around those next generation consoles. However, a few weeks ago, Sony, out of the blue, released a video and a website which indicated on the 20th of February they're going to be releasing some information about what we believe may be the PlayStation 4. I'm here with Matt, and today we're going to have a chat about those consoles, try and find out a little bit more, discuss what it might mean for me and you as a gamer.
Yeah, so when the invites and the video sort of landed that Sony released at the beginning of the month, I really wasn't sure that we were going to see the PlayStation 4. It just seems too early in the year. Yeah. With E3, I were expecting more around E3 sort of time, we'd start hearing more stuff. The PlayStation 3 still feels like it's got a fair bit of life in it. We've still got, there's games like the GTA 4, there's a couple of other bits and bats coming out this year that I was expecting to get at least most of this year out of the way before we were really going to hear anything solid. But as the 20th sort of approaches and we get closer to it, it really does feel like some of the rumours that are dropping now and things that we're finding out really does feel like it's definitely going to be the PlayStation 4 or whatever they decide to call it that will be announced on the 20th of Feb. So it's definitely looking like that.
So what do we know already then about the PlayStation? I mean, there's been a lot of rumours, there's been a lot of talk about the 720 as well on the Microsoft side, but obviously focusing on the PlayStation 4, what do we know already? What's out there?
Well, obviously it's all rumour, and there's sort of bits and bats that are coming out from some of the devs and stuff, as they've obviously got dev kits and things that they're working with. It looks like definitely this time around, both Microsoft and Sony, they are looking at a more off-the-shelf sort of the hardware that's going to be making up these consoles. So when the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 came out, they were very much bespoke machines. They looked to try and make them sort of get 10 years out of them. They was looking for other sort of media PC type stuff that they were looking at trying to include in these consoles. And they used tweaked and improved what they thought was improved hardware from what was sort of off-the-shelf stuff, as you'd call it at the time. Whereas this time, it definitely feels like they've gone for more off-the-shelf sort of stuff that's proven to work, that's quite high-end, but not sort of going to make the consoles ridiculously expensive or anything. So it's definitely going to try to keep those costs down and sort of working with stuff that they know how to use. Again, the other thing is that because of that, they seem to be sort of coming together, and the hardware that's behind them is, although there's differences, there's a lot of similarities about what's sort of the internals of the machines. So I think the standouts really, as far as the differences are concerned, is that the rumours around the RAM for the PlayStation is that there's going to be 4 gig of RAM in the PlayStation, but it will be DDR5, whereas with the Xbox it's looking like 8 gig, but that's going to be DDR3.
Okay.
DDR5 and DDR3 doesn't mean a lot to me, but I think you can probably sort of say a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I guess if you're going to only have 4 gig of RAM in one, but it's going to be of a higher quality, higher grade DDR5, you've got less lanes to travel down, but you've got more bandwidth within it. Yeah. But obviously on DDR3, if you then open that up to more channels, more lanes, like a motorway, you stick more traffic through it, because it's across more lanes, you're going to be able to travel more data through there. So I suppose that's the way they're looking at it. I mean, it must all come down to cost at the end of the day. Like you say, it feels like if they're going to be using off-the-shelf components, off-the-shelf technology, and then maybe applying some of their technologies, their software, their improvements around that to get the best out of it, then the hardware behind it must all be to do with keeping the cost down.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's, again, thinking about the media stuff again, I think it certainly looks like from Microsoft's side of things, they're trying to have a PC in your living room, take over the living room and have that. So it's playing your DVDs for you, it's playing your TV content, it's playing your music, it's playing your games as well, which I think is why they've gone for the more RAM. Seems to be what I've read. I don't know how that sort of translates with the DDR3 thing and the extra RAM, but that seems to be what the people more in the know than I am seem to be thinking about it. So
all that work they did with like Xbox Live on the 360 is going to try, they're really trying to move that so that it becomes a device for everything. So you're going to be able to play games, obviously to a much better level than the 360, access loads of TV content, the Netflix, love films, all that kind of thing. Plus, I guess a library of additional games, like potentially older ones that you could get through the marketplace type thing. To be able to access.
I think that's what Microsoft nailed with the 360 really, and that's been the real differentiator between it and the PlayStation 3 is how it's constantly evolved software-wise. The PlayStation 3, although it has differences to when it first arrived, the look and feel of it is very similar now to when it first launched, whereas the Xbox and Xbox Live has constantly changed. They've added the Kinect stuff, so there's gesture control stuff in there. You can talk to it. They've definitely moved and hidden stuff, like some of the gaming stuff moved to the side, whereas they've brought some of the TV stuff and the streaming things, like your Netflix, like you say. Those have all sort of been brought to the front, almost as important as the gaming side of it, really. I guess that and the online gaming sort of stuff, they're the two real differentiators between the Xbox and the PlayStation, really. Microsoft have always done a better job of the community side of it.
I think they sort of understand that more general, like casual gamer, that individual that sort of sits in front of him. One of the things that's fundamentally changed in the last 8 years since the Xbox first launched is the availability of games in online through like social networks and things, and then smartphones, which, you know, I mean, everyone's got a smartphone in the pocket, everyone can play a game. I suppose Microsoft are maybe going to try and bring that user into the living room with a 720, whereas Sony PS4 maybe more for the, you know, the harder gamer, the gamer that maybe understands that a little bit more than the media side.
That's one of the other things, I guess, is that the coming together of the whole Windows platform. I think, talking of your casual gamer, I think Microsoft are definitely looking at, they've got this sort of second screen idea. So sort of like what the Wii U's doing, whereas that's a sort of dedicated piece of hardware that goes along with the Wii U. It definitely looks like there's going to be some sort of bringing in of the tablet stuff with what's going on with the 720. So maybe not particularly dragging down playing a game that should be played on the 720 on a tablet, but stuff like maps, extra content, things like that you can look at on a tablet.
Like an inventory tablet.
Definitely. That's it. It does feel like they're going to be sort of bringing the mobile sort of side of things and the 720 sort of stuff, bringing those together into one as well.
It makes sense, I suppose. Obviously, Windows 8 being such a massive change from you know, a Windows 7 platform, it is more of a tablet, interactive lifestyle kind of operating system, and that's, you know, they nailed that with the, like you said, the 620. They were constantly evolving. It became like that sort of tab imagery, you know, really visual piece of thing that was easy for everybody to use. And I suppose if they translate that to tablet, they can move that back and forth between the 720. It becomes more of a, you know, a tool around the home, you know, like you say, an actual device you would
definitely. I mean,
interact with your TV.
You can already see the similarities between how the Live's changed and what Windows 8's done. These big things that you touch or that you look at, and it's sort of live tile type thing, which is sort of copied between the two. And I think those two things will increasingly get closer and closer together.
Okay, so what about, obviously, the gaming side itself? Both of those, we talked earlier about the social and the smartphone type gaming. What the traditional consoles are born on is physical media. So they're born on, obviously, HD DVD, as it was for the 360, a Blu-ray for the PS4. Do we know which way that's going yet?
It looks like they're both going to be Blu-ray. In fact, we're almost 100% they're both going to be Blu-ray.
Okay.
I think, obviously, HD DVD's disappeared now. It doesn't exist. I think Sony have got a bit of a reputation for when they stick with a format, it does tend to stick, like CD in the first place. Like with, as far as games are concerned, the original PlayStation, that's, I think, the first console to use CD, possibly, and that sort of stuck, and everything sort of moved towards that. So I think, I think definitely it's really going to go to Blu-ray this time. I think Microsoft has had a problem as the current generation's moved along. Games have had to be on 2-3 discs at a time. And Blu-ray's just got that extra capacity on there, so they can get more into that onto a single disc. But I think on top of that as well is that you're going to see increasingly that they're going to look towards the download model. So, like your social games and your stuff for Android, iOS, where you're downloading from a marketplace, they'll be moving more towards that model, definitely with the next generation of consoles, both Sony and Microsoft. But I think one thing they have to sort out, I guess, is the pricing there. So, for instance, this weekend I was playing Dead Space 3, the demo for that. Right. Great game, looks fantastic, plays great on my PlayStation. So I thought, well, I'll have a look on the network rather than nipping out to shop to buy it. I'll have to see how much it is on there. And it was 60 quid to download it from the PlayStation Network, which is obscene, really, when I can nip to Asda down round the corner from me and probably splash 35, 40 quid on it, whatever it is, for a new release these days. People aren't just not willing to pay that. So I think there does need to be a change in that market.
Yeah, because I mean the whole beauty of downloadable content, as we know from sort of the 360, was the ability to add on to games and then give people the option whereby you don't have to buy the physical media. There's a cost associated with that. If you can take that away, why not pass that saving on to, you know, the consumer who wants to buy it from the online facility? I mean, that's what it should all be about. So you believe there'll be a heavier reliance from the new consoles on that downloadable content, whether that be full game or whether it be more and more of the additional content that they release after?
A mix of both really as well, and I think one of the sort of more sinister rumours that's knocking around as far as the online bit is concerned is that they're both, we've heard more sort of concrete stuff from the Microsoft side, but both platforms looking at getting rid of used games or second-hand games, so where you could go out, as soon as a new game comes out, you go out, you flog yours that you bought a couple of months back, and then you use that to put towards the next new game, and then somebody else comes along who didn't originally buy the game when it first came out and they can buy it at cut price. I don't think, more and more they're going to be pushing against that. So the rumours are, more specifically for the 720 at the minute, that it is going to have to be constantly online while you're playing games. It's never going to be just so they can, they'll argue that it's to stop piracy and such, but it does feel like that's their push against used games really.
Right, okay. I think, one of the key things most people are going to be looking at in all this is the cost. We know the Wii U launched a couple of months back now. It's pretty expensive. You mentioned earlier about the way this development's gone with the new console. They're trying to use off-the-shelf components, assumingly to keep costs down, make sure that the value of the product is at the right place given the economy as it currently is. Do we have any ideas yet around cost? What's it gonna cost you and me? Again,
it really is sort of finger in the air at the minute, but I can't see the cost coming in anywhere near where they were for the last PlayStation. Like the last PlayStation when that came out, it was somewhere around the £500 mark. If it's more than 400, I'll be very surprised. I think that's going to be the price point that they aim for. The Wii U's come out, it's not sold massively, it's done okay, but it's not broken any records. I think Nintendo themselves have not said they're disappointed, but they've certainly not been punching the air with the success.
I think everyone agrees that's got to be down to the cost, hasn't it? It's come out, it's a real premium price. Understandably, first of a new generation of consoles, you're going to pitch it higher, but I think Microsoft and Sony have got to come in below that.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with that is it's not that a massive jump from where the PS3 and the Xbox 360 are the Wii U.
Yeah.
It is better, but not massively.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the costs from Nintendo's side are that there's lots of hardware involved with a tablet and all those other things that they've got. It's not just a simple machine that you put a game in and it plays.
Yeah.
So I think they've pushed the costs up with that, and I think it's come back to bite them slightly. But the next gen, I think they will sort of push in. They'll be wary that the Wii U hasn't sold massively, and I don't think they can go massively above the £400 mark when it first comes out. Don't hold me to that. That's just that is a guess.
Let's hope not. I'm not buying one of his over 400 quid. So one of the things we did speak about in the last podcast was around other gaming devices. One of them specifically from CES was Nvidia's Project Shield, which was gaming. Obviously we've got things like the PS Vita. We've got handheld, we've got smartphones, etc. It feels like there was, that was announced, but there was another generation potentially of not those flagship consoles, but an additional set of consoles that potentially give people more options, more scope. You aware of many of those and what they're about?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on sort of which end you go for. If you go for the real casual gaming end of the market, you've got something like the massive Kickstarter success that was the UER, which is Android-based, tiny little device, 100 quid. They're now saying it's going to be a yearly cycle of hardware, so 100 quid a year. It'll get better and better along.
Evolve.
That's it. And so you've got there somewhere in the middle, which is sort of a combination of all the games that you can currently play on your phone, but you can play them on your telly with a more traditional control pad, as well as some more sort of, I think, higher end games that are built specifically with the UER in mind. So it's not got that excessive initial outlay of cost, and smaller nuggets of cost for the games themselves, and that's sort of your casual stuff, as well as everybody who's playing games now on their tablets, on their phones and all that. I think that's a big chunk of the market that Microsoft and Sony, I don't think they're particularly lost, but I think the Vita's certainly suffered from that. People who have got games that are good enough on their phones rather than needing specific hardware to do it. Exactly, I think as well, then on the other side of it, we're hearing stuff like you say, the Project Shield, and then there's also some like the Steam box that Valve are looking at.
Of course,
loads of wacky ideas coming out of Valve, such as sort of biometric tests in your controllers and stuff that see what your heartbeat's doing and stuff like that, and might change the music or how the game game changes and things like that.
Completely all in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely, and that will be looks like that'll be Linux based.
All right, not Windows at all.
No, they seem to have a bit of a downer on Windows, particularly Windows 8 at the minute.
Right.
They feel it's more of a closed system and they want something to be a bit more open.
Yeah.
Arguable whether Steam's particularly open, but
that's very true. Yeah.
but they definitely look like they're moving more towards a Linux-based system that they're looking at. So right across the board, there's lots of other devices now knocking around that are outside of the 2-3 big guys. There's definitely loads of different stuff going on at the minute, and lots of DIY stuff as well, Oculus Rift, all those sorts of things that are going to be making sort of changes as certainly over the next 12 months, 2 years really with gaming. It's
definitely feels though there's a step change away from, not completely away from physical media, but certainly the concept that everything has to come on a disc, everything has to come on a physical piece of media. Eliminate those costs. Use the ability now of better broadband infinities. That we really need to be getting consumers used to the fact you can download content like you can your phone for any array of games. So it definitely feels like that's the way the market's moving.
Definitely, and the app stores help with that. Android Marketplace.
People just expect it now, don't they?
People are used to that. I think it's still a step too far with home consoles for your big guys, because you're forking out 30, 40 quid a game sometimes. I think that's too much. People like to have something in their hand when they're paying that much money out.
True.
But I think over time that's gradually going to change, and more and more people move towards that sort of completely downloadable media. Again, that's the end of sort of second-hand gaming as well. If everything moves completely that way,
you're never going to be able to resell any of that. And the other issue is, still at the minute, especially in the UK, is that availability of the faster fibre optic broadband isn't fully there yet.
Sure.
And downloading the best part of 50, 60 gig for a game, which is going to be on a Blu-ray, is hours and hours. And obviously some people have limits on that. So it feels like it's still very much work in progress. So February the 20th, that's the update. We're expecting more details. We're hoping there's going to be some rumours cleared up. So it really feels like we're a little bit closer to that next gen.
I don't think Microsoft will be too far behind it either with their announcement after that.
Fingers crossed. Should be a good Christmas then.
Definitely, yeah.
Thanks for your time, Matt. It's good to talk to you.
Cheers.
Well, that was just us chatting there about the next gen of consoles. February the 20th, only a week away now. Who knows what's going to be said? Fingers crossed it is about the PS4, and before Christmas we'll start to see some updates on the 720. And fingers crossed by Christmas you'll be able to get your hands on one.